Hello everyone, my name is Anna Golubović and the topic of my presentation is an ostracism effect of figure size measured through young children's drawings in Serbian urban and rural communities. I will try step by step to introduce you to the study. We will go through theoretical background, research question and hypotheses, methods, results, conclusion, and in the end, I will be open to your questions. So let's get started. The term ostracism means social exclusion or rejection. Current research is an extension of the study with the title Third-Party Ostracism Didn't Affect Children Drawings in Three Serbian Communities by Štengelin, Golubović, Tope, Over, and Hahn. To measure the affiliation response after witnessing the third-party ostracism, they used the distance between two figures, the complexity of the drawings, and span time, but not the figure size. The results revealed that children's understanding of ostracism increases with age and it's shaped by the culture. Therefore, the current study is using the same data in order to investigate one more element of drawings, figure size. According to the Hofstadter model on the individualism scale, Serbia has 25% in comparison to Germany 67%. That means that social relationships and connections are very important, as well as collectivism, extended family, and loyalty. However, it still stays unclear whether urbanization within the culture can influence certain behavior. Therefore, the study investigated the ostracism response in urban, semi-urban, and rural Serbian areas. More details about that will come later. Some cross-cultural studies show that children growing up in interdependent societies drove themselves smaller in comparison to the children from independent societies. How children see and position themselves in independent societies is some kind of a socio-cultural esteem of self. Thomas and Joly suggested an appetitive defensive theory, meaning that through increased figures of nice topics, children tend to make a connection, and by decreasing the size of the figure of nasty characteristics, they tend to reduce that threat. Burkitt, Barrett, and Davis studies confirm that children tend to draw happy and nice figures bigger than sad and nasty. As well as some other studies confirm that figures of important persons are drawn bigger. Therefore, one of the possible assumptions could be that if the child is affected by ostracism, he or she would draw a bigger figure of a friend. Social relationships are playing an important role, and by exaggerating the figure of the friend, they will tend to make some kind of connection. One more possible assumption is that girls will include more details in figure drawings, therefore they will draw figures bigger than boys. The research question of interest is how the social exclusion affects the human figure size in children's drawings in a collectivistic society. According to the previous mentioned studies, the further hypotheses were developed. Children in ostracism condition will draw themselves smaller in comparison to their friends. The figure size will differ between urban Belgrade and rural Požarevac and Kostolac areas. The girls will draw bigger figures than boys. The study was conducted in 10 kindergartens in 3 different cities in Serbia among 3 to 5-year-olds. The capital and the biggest city of Serbia is Belgrade, with approximately 1,700,000 inhabitants. It's an urban, touristic, educational, and cultural center of Serbia. Požarevac counts as a semi-urban with 59,000 inhabitants, and Kostolac is a rural area with about 13,000 inhabitants. Both cities are industrial, and their geographical position is 90 kilometers east of Belgrade. In Kostolac, there is only one kindergarten, therefore the number of participants was adjusted according to the number of children tested in that city. Overall, 134 children participated. However, 18 were excluded from the analysis because they either refused to draw, the drawings were not recognizable, they draw in a portrait form, they didn't draw a human figure, or they draw only one figure. The study has a between-subject design, which means that children participated in only one condition, ostracism or control one. They were equally divided into these two conditions. In the ostracism condition, they watched two videos, duration of 1 minute for each, in which geometrical figures played together and excluded from the group the figure that tried to join them. The excluded figure was the same shape and color as the group. In the control videos, the groups of figures were playing, and the protagonist figure was a fly or butterfly, which was just flying around. After each video, the experimenter asked a child to describe what happened in the video and to show on the Likert scale how the protagonist felt, and as well as how the child felt. When the stimuli phase was done, the task was to draw themselves and a friend. They got a piece of paper and a green pencil and took as much time as they needed to finish the drawing. In the end, children watched the video in which all figures played together. The height of the figure was measured through the distance between the two longest points on the vertical axis, and the width of the figure was measured through the distance between the two widest points on the horizontal axis. To conduct the analysis, MANOVA test was used, and dependent variables were height of the friend and height of self, and independent variables were city, condition, and gender. The results show that there was no significant difference between means in ostracism and control conditions, nor between figures drawn by boys and girls in height and width. However, there was an effect of the city. Children in Belgrade urban area draw taller figures of self and a friend than children in Kostolac rural area, as you can see here on the as the graph shows. The same was with the analysis of the width of the figure. Dependent variables were width of the friend and self, as well independent variables city, condition, and gender. The results were similar. Also for this test, no main effect of condition or gender. However, the main effect of the city revealed that in comparison to Belgrade, the width of the friend's figure was smaller in Požarevac, and both figures were smaller in Kostolac. To conclude the results, for the first hypothesis, there was no influence of ostracism on the figure size drawings. It confirmed the results of the study by Stengelin and colleagues, and one of their assumptions was that social relationships in interdependent societies provide some kind of protection, and that can be one of the reasons why children in Serbia didn't react to ostracism as German children. Moreover, as they also suggested for the future studies, the in-group ostracism check should be taken into consideration when testing this behavior in collectivistic societies. Girls didn't draw bigger figures in comparison to boys, MANOVA test didn't show the significant results. However, if we compare only the means of the figures, girls draw slightly bigger figures than boys. Figures of a friend were taller and wider in Belgrade, urban city, than in Kostolac, a rural city. However, figures of self were just taller but not wider in Belgrade in comparison to Požarevac and Kostolac. If we compare only the means of the figures in those cities between the friend and self, there is no big difference. However, it is of particular interest that the size of figures drastically differ among urban and rural areas. Almost 20 centimeters difference in height and width between Belgrade and Kostolac. For the future direction, the specific investigation of the interdependency of Serbian societies should be met. For example, like questionnaires, and one of the possible would be in-group and out-group ostracism, and as Stengelin and colleagues suggested, as well as the comparison with an independent societies, like, for example, Germany or America or some other cultures that have those kinds of characteristics. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm looking forward to your questions, and let's get started.